day.
Hello.
Hi, welcome.
Happy Monday.
It's Monday. Welcome to the Monday Motivation.
Yeah.
It's June 6th.
Can't even believe it. It's June.
June 6th, people. And that means that all over the state of Pennsylvania
Yes.
and probably Delaware too, schools. Some are out already.
Feeling like school.
This is the last week.
Summer.
Yeah. And Philadelphia schools typically go later. So you probably have another week after this. But
But you're
have
doing
you
great.
noticed, like, when school lets out, how much lighter the traffic is in the morning?
Nope.
Oh,
Have you?
yeah. It's like when school lets out and the buses don't run and like kids aren't being moved. It's like the traffic is 50% of what it is normally.
Interesting.
It really, like, if you've noticed this, maybe I'm crazy because you don't notice it.
Well, also.
Well, you get up later.
Yeah.
So like that hour, that 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., those 2-hour periods when people
Right.
are moving to school, like, comment on this if you're seeing this and you agree with me, or so that way I'll know if I'm crazy. But I feel like the traffic just reduces like mad once school lets out. And it's really like a commentary on how big of an impact on our whole culture the school system makes.
Yeah. Would you say that it makes a difference on bike riding?
Yes. It makes a difference on commuting, which I've been commuting on my bike recently.
Yeah.
19 miles one way.
That's
on my
impressive.
Bicycle.
Comment if you think it's impressive.
Left the house at 6:30 this morning. I got here at 7:30.
Wow.
I took a different route, so it took me a little longer. Usually it can take me about 50 minutes, 50, to get here on my bike.
50.
It is pedal assist electric, so it gives me a little push, but I still have to pedal. 1,200 calories burned this morning. Sorry, got my stats here.
Yeah.
So, one of the things, and hey, you're going to be in youth ministry long term. You gotta
live long term.
You gotta live long term. We're coming into camp season, which means our endurance. We need to build up our endurance. I noticed the WOGs. You guys have been
going to the gym,
going to the club, the gym, the
Yeah.
fitness club, because it's true. If you want to keep going in youth ministry, you got to keep it real.
And we're keeping it real here.
Well, we are just off on all kinds of tangents today.
Speaking of real, camp's coming up real quick.
We love youth camp, and I am so excited. We want to say, hope you had an awesome weekend. I love the glasses.
I was on the camp
Tell me
already.
about it. Tell me about these glasses.
Well, if you guys didn't know, camp has a little bit of a theme this year. It's gonna be flashy.
Flashy. It's best week of the year.
Best week of the year.
Always.
Yeah.
But this year, it's like disco shark party.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the vibe.
So
this is, I just felt like I needed to wear this. Well, we talked about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so week 1 sold out.
Sold out.
Completely. Week 2
beds.
sold out completely.
Zero
beds. Weekend is at 2/3 capacity at present.
Yeah.
And so that means next year we need to figure out how to add more camp.
Exactly.
I basically have said once we hit 2/3 capacity. Yeah. So that will be coming. We're excited about it. Are we going to be doing a newsreel with like the camp announcements like we did last year?
We may do something.
We will have a newsreel with the special, make sure you know this before you come to camp announcements.
Yeah.
So I want to say welcome to new members, Brielle Valansky.
Welcome, Brielle.
And Savi Lopez
welcome,
in Dover Assembly of God in Dover, PA, not Dover, Delaware.
Yeah.
So that is just outside of York, Pennsylvania. Welcome, Savi. We're so glad to have you in this group. And Sarah Stanek as well, who is engaged to Carlos Munoz, who is the new youth pastor in Waynesburg. He had his first Wednesday last week. I had lunch with him on Thursday. He had youth group Wednesday, lunch Thursday with me. So
congratulations, Carlos.
Congratulations, Carlos, and welcome Sarah Stanek to this group. We're so thrilled to have you as part of our Pendo Youth Pastors group. Savi as well. And Savi and Carlos actually called to ministry at the same camp.
Sweet.
Growing up, same year. And now in ministry together as youth pastors in the same network. Different network than where they were called.
Precious.
Now they're here together. Precious, yeah. Very good. And both, I think, are attached to Houston, the Houston Church, Central Assembly.
Okay.
So Sarah is from there. And I'm not sure, Savi, what your connection is. We need to grab lunch. So a couple youth pastor changes. We have mentioned this before. Mike Smith will be leaving Family Life and Hermitage. 21 years.
Wow.
Mike has been a youth pastor here in the Pendel Ministry Network.
That's huge.
And huge. 10 and a half years at Hermitage, Family Life Church. It was First Assembly Hermitage before that, and 10 and a half years prior to that. And so, Mike, we're so proud of you and so proud that you've been a Pendel youth pastor. And as well, Chris McNaney has announced his resignation from Harvest Church in Trucksville, just above Wilkes-Barre. And so he'll be done end of June. 7 years as the youth pastor there. Another youth pastor attaining longevity. Just amazing. And both these guys, Mike and Chris, also serving as youth reps. So we'll have several transitions on our youth committee throughout the summer. And so we're just praying about that. And we want to see the right people put into place in each of these locations. So which brings us to the next point. We have several churches looking to hire youth pastors. Evangel Heights, Sarver, Trinity Assembly of God, Westchester, Family Life Church, Hermitage. We just talked about Harvest Church in Trucksville or Wilkes-Barre as well. All of these churches are looking, and there may be others out there as well that are looking. I heard that Valencia is looking. Crossway, Valencia, I've heard that they're looking. So, and congratulations to Jordan and Charlesy Robinson.
Yay.
Joy Marie Robinson, born on June 2nd. Big congrats.
Welcome to the world.
Welcome to the world.
Joy.
Jordan and Charlesy, you guys are an amazing couple.
Yeah.
And we're thrilled for you. So, good. Well, we have birthdays to get to in a little while, but we've been talking over several weeks, unpacking the truth about longevity and youth ministry for Assemblies of God youth pastors.
This is part 5 today.
This is part 5, is it? I think it's part 6.
Part 5, I believe.
Is it? I thought part 5 was last time. So we did
We'll
what
see.
What you don't need personally, what you do need personally. Oh, and then so this is part 5. You're correct. Relationships you don't need, then relationships you need.
I just know because I write it on the podcast thing.
You are correct, Korinne, and I am incorrect, and so I apologize. So we want to continue. Now, we started to talk about what relationships you need. What are the most important relationships for longevity? This survey was a survey of 79 youth pastors in the Assemblies of God who've been in their church 5 years or more. In fact, Mike Smith was part of this survey. Youth took the survey. Chris McNaney took the survey. People in Oregon took the survey. All over the nation, people took the survey. And then I interviewed 24 youth pastors, and these are the results that we found. And so we talked last time the most important relationship for longevity for an Assembly of God youth pastor on earth, earthly relationships.
Senior pastor.
Lead pastor.
Yeah, lead, sorry.
Outpaces all of the rest by far. But others are important too. In fact, the next 3 relationship types we'll talk about are very close together in ranking. In fact, they all scored the same average, and so we had to go to a secondary grouping of the scores to actually rank them. But the second most important relationship for a youth pastor to attain longevity in youth ministry is the youth pastor's relationship to students in the youth ministry. Now, this may seem like a no-brainer, but it's not.
It's not.
In fact, my dissertation field mentor, Garland Owensby, we've had him speak at Pendel youth events before. He's been youth ministry prophet Southwestern Assembly of God.
He has a great name.
Yeah, he's from Kennett Square, PA. Grew up in this network. Yeah, loves tasty cakes and Wawa. Good guy. Yeah. In fact, he said, I had a question there that do you love to be with students? I love to be with students, from strongly disagree up to strongly agree. And he said, do you really need this in there? Shouldn't it be assumed? Well, I'll tell you this, no. I've actually known youth pastors. I know a youth pastor who youth pastored in a mega church, and he didn't really like being with students.
Interesting.
True. And the way I found out is he would actually say, I hate camp. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? Camp is the best week of the year.
It's the walkie. Let's go on.
And he goes, and it wasn't that he hated camp. Here's what he said. I don't like being in a room with my students for a week. I don't like having to be with them so much. And I said to him then, I said, I'm not sure you're a youth pastor anymore. I think you're leading a great team. And he was doing a great job.
Yeah.
Honestly, great youth pastor. everybody would think that he was a great youth pastor, but in his brain, he already didn't like being with students.
And that's different from not liking to be with their smell. Because we know about camp.
Yeah,
But that's different.
Yeah, yeah. There was a great meme yesterday. It was a tweet that a left-leaning organization had put up about deodorant.
Okay.
So deodorant was invented to fix a non-existent problem, and it's been around all these years because it's upheld by the patriarchy. So you see they're like casting shade on gender.
Yeah, yeah.
And a youth pastor wrote, "Come to the junior high boys room at cabin and you will delete this tweet." This is true.
Yeah.
This is so true. But
the difference between not maybe liking one part of the experience and not liking to be with students.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said to him then, I said, "I'm not sure you're youth pastor anymore." Well, sure enough, a year later he transitioned out and became a site church planter for another big church. And so it is important. So student relationships, and here's two things we measured that came up as particularly significant. The youth pastor loves being with students. Loves being with students. And do you love that?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just started volunteering at my local church youth
That's
group.
awesome.
Yes. So that feels really good to be like
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
so
did
good.
2 weeks so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your favorite like demographic of student to hang out with?
I like high school, but I think I like freshman, like sophomore age.
Boys or girls?
Both.
My favorite,
I like both.
okay, my favorite, junior high boys.
They're so fun.
They are wild.
Junior high boys are crazy.
Wild.
Yeah.
Not always the biggest spiritual wins with junior high boys, but definitely the most fun to be with.
Yeah, they are so fun. It is a little bit weird being a female though, because sometimes they're a little bit like unsure about how they should be around a female at that point.
You were youth pastor 10 years in the same church.
Yeah.
How many junior high boys did you have a conversation with about their changing bodies and their need to start wearing deodorant?
I left out the changing bodies part, but I did talk to them extensively about deodorant and the need to shower.
I would keep a stick of deodorant in my desk drawer, bottom drawer, because on Wednesday nights, every now and then I have to pull a boy in and be like, "Hey, buddy.
You stink."
Yeah.
I have to with girls too.
Oh?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think girls smelled bad. My wife told me otherwise.
Comment if you know. No, yeah, for real. But I love like those freshman and sophomore girls because they're still open.
Yeah.
But they kind of grasp life a little bit more.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in junior high, and this is going to be very stereotypical, junior high girls are hitting puberty before boys. And they get like, it's like once the change happens in a junior high girl, it's like drama.
It's drama. It's either they completely close up or they're just like, wah! Everything.
Yeah. And the attitudes shift too.
Yes.
They suddenly know more, or I don't know, it's just different. And so and so that tends to then chill out when they get into high school.
Right. They're a little bit more confident.
Yes, they get more confidence. They are getting more comfortable with the shifts that are going on.
Yeah.
So my two favorite groups to hang out with: junior high boys and junior or senior girls in high school, because they tend to be more even keeled. They're less hormonally like controlled at that point. Still driven, obviously. We're always still driven.
They know how to live in that now.
Yes, they become. Yeah, it's so good. And so, and then of course the second part of measuring student relationship. Youth pastor loves being with students. This scored a 4.7 out of 5. And so if you're keeping track of that, that's above 90%. That's probably like a 94%. Would strongly agree that they love being with students. Second thing, youth pastor feels effective in the youth pastor student relationships. And so this average score was a 4.42 out of 5. So that's just below 90%. Okay. And so in some of this, I think like I've heard Pastor Don talk about when he knew he was done being a youth pastor. It was when he got done with an all-nighter and he said, "I never want to do that again." And he felt like at that time, he knew he wasn't going to be a youth pastor much longer. What I would say is stop doing all-nighters.
I mean, I hate all-nighters.
I hate them too. So some of this, I think, still loving to be with students is kind of stewarding the experience that you have and create and have control over in your youth ministry.
Yeah.
If it's miserable, stop doing what you're doing and try something else.
Right.
And so I've heard a couple like lead pastors talk about that. Well,
Well,
stop
all
doing
honors
the
are just
dumb
the
stuff.
worst.
Stop doing the dumb stuff. So, good. You might find that you like students more if you're doing the things that you enjoy together.
I even just loved, like, if I needed to go shopping, grocery shopping, I'd say, hey, who wants to go with me? And I'll take two kids, and they'll climb to the top shelf and grab the stuff I can't reach.
Yeah, it's good.
So, yeah.
Okay, next. So, most important relationship, lead pastor, youth pastor. Second most, youth pastor, student. So the average, the median average of student relationships was 4.50. The next relationship also 4.50, and the next one 4.50. And then, so we did a sub measurement of preferred high outcomes. So if a question, like you want a positive response on a question, that was the second average we went to determine the order. But the next two relationships also scored a median average of 4.5. So these three, the student relationship and the next two, very close together in matters of importance. Youth pastor's relationship with the congregation. Third most significant relationship for longevity and AG youth ministry. Median average 4.50. Average of all preferred higher outcomes 4.50 also. So, so what does that mean? Well,
like how do you measure that?
So number one, this is like critical. This was the highest scoring sub factor. Youth pastor actively supports other ministries within the church in word and in deed. And I think this is like, so like there is so much like subtle undercurrent to this particular point, because it means that you exist as a youth pastor in a church as part of a larger ecosystem of the church. You don't view that you're not isolated. You're not like just so focused on youth ministry that nothing else is important.
Right. We're the end all be all. We are.
Yeah. Oh, boy, my hair's wild today. Rode my bike in, so I just pulled up the stream. I remember looking in the mirror. I'm like, I gotta fix that before I go live. Didn't happen.
It's fine.
Yeah. So this is important because it means you don't exist. Yeah, you don't exist in isolation from other ministries. That says something about your. Yeah. Too many of our youth pastors are myopic, so they only sing what's around them, and that can be very damaging to your longevity. You're part of a larger team in the church. Here's what else we found. Congregation is supportive of the youth ministry. So this is important too. Not only will you find that when you get to know other people in the church and other ministries in the church, that it improves overall relationships, but it also improves that they are supporting you more.
Yeah, for real.
And you want those senior citizens that, maybe you come in on Sunday morning and you never greet the senior citizens who are there early and sitting in their pews. Stop and fix that. Yeah. These are the people who will invest when the Holy Spirit speaks to them in the next generation. But they won't invest if they don't trust you or don't know you. And so this is important. Congregation supportive of the youth ministry. The congregants generally believe the youth pastor's job is important. A lot of youth pastors feel that way. So that's critical. And that does say something as well. We talked about the lead pastor relationship, that the lead pastor values the youth pastor, trusts the youth pastors. That generally that drive,
because that pastor's putting that narrative out, and the church is coming behind that.
So there are two things drive that. One would be the culture of the church, which the youth pastor or the lead pastor is ultimately responsible, but also that you're doing quality things, that you're telling positive narrative stories of what God's doing in the youth ministry, that there's tangible, real results, and the congregation sees that. You're not the only one seeing that. And then the youth pastor feels connected to the people, and meaning adults of the church. Score of this factor 4.32, so this would be below 85%. So it's it gets lower. But essentially, you want to have significant relationships in your church outside of the youth ministry.
I'll say that was one thing that I absolutely loved about the church where I was, is the entire body functioned as a body, and just like I could count on Youth Sunday, the senior citizens were front row, singing, dancing with their little tambourines. And like championing the youth. And they did that in a lot of ways, including monetarily and prayerfully. And
so good.
So I loved that.
So let's move on then. The next, so youth pastor student relationship, second most important. Youth pastor congregation these are virtually tied in importance. And the third that's virtually tied, youth pastor's relationship to the church's governing board. Fourth most significant relationship for longevity in youth ministry. The youth pastor has a good relationship with members of the church board. This came in just above 90% agreement. And I always say this, like when I was young and just really ambitious for youth ministry and for the Lord, and had a lot of zeal for youth ministry, I did not handle this one well. I would often throw shade at the board because they made the financial decisions in the church I was in. I'd say, well, guys, we can't do that because the board wouldn't fund it. What a stupid thing to say.
Yeah.
And lack of perspective. This would have been when I was 25, 26. A lack of perspective. I would never say that now. I wouldn't want to say that now. But youth pastor generally has a good relationship. And I did make it long, but I learned from my mistakes and changed that attitude. When a board member actually talked to me about that. Yeah.
So it got back to them.
Yeah. Well, they were in the room when I said it.
Oh.
And just said, talked about how, and he wasn't harsh about it, thank God. And didn't run to pastor, thank God. He talked to me. And then I realized I was kind of shooting myself in the foot. So youth pastor.
But that takes intentionality on the youth pastor's part to get to know those people.
Which was another significant factor. Youth pastor generally has a positive view, has good relationships and a positive view. Yeah. And so boards are not always going to make decisions that go in your favor, especially on things like budget requests, et cetera, et cetera. But keep up that positive view. They're answering God's call to serve. Right. Yeah. And not everything they're doing is in their control. They're typically guided by a lead pastor. So, fifth most important. So lead pastor, youth pastor relationship first, student, then youth pastor, student, youth pastor relationship, then congregation, then governing board. Fifth most important relationship, and this breaks the tie and is further down, staff relationship. So if there's multiple pastors, multiple paid staff, very important. In fact, that the youth pastor has a good relationship with other pastors and support staff. Average score 4.8. So actually, of all like the relational factors, this was one of the highest scoring. The average put it lower, below other relationship types.
But only barely.
This particular, only barely. And this particular point, the youth pastor had a good relationship with other pastors and staff was huge. And staff members keep disagreements among the staff private. Confidentiality, and the church staff is loyal to one another. So I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where that went bad.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I had some headbutting a little bit. But I would say that my pastor did a good job of trying to be a peacemaker in those situations. Yeah.
I had some that were I had usually if a relationship between me and a staff member went bad, it was tied to their relationship going bad with the lead pastor also. So like it was going bad all around. I have one colleague who had a falling out with his lead pastor, and we kept a good relationship because we had been friends before that, and I was the one who invited him to come on staff as the family life pastor, kids pastor, and then when I left, things between him and pastor fell apart. But I'm going to have lunch Wednesday actually with a children's pastor I was on staff with, different guy.
Okay.
Great relationship.
Good.
And till to this day, good relationship. So, so good. And then number 6, relationship number 6. So lead pastor, students, congregation, governing board, staff relationships. Number 6, and you'll be shocked at this, the 6th most important relationship for a youth pastor to attain longevity in the church, marriage and family.
That is a little bit shocking. That far down.
You would think this would be number 1. But I would say like it's not ranking the most important earthly relationships in your life.
It's in the church.
And for the purpose of attaining longevity.
Yeah.
And so here's what I wrote. It may seem odd that this relationship type is not ranked first. After all, if a youth pastor's marriage falls apart in the AGUSA, there is a high chance the youth pastor's ministry days are at an end, at least temporarily. And here's what I said, a high chance. We've actually had youth pastors whose marriages did end. It's very sad and tragic when it happens. And it's often, and there's always fault all around. But we've had more than one where it was the spouse's fault. There was infidelity. There were abandonment issues as well. And the churches stuck by the youth pastors and they stayed in ministry.
Wow.
And there was redemption. And so we do see some tragic circumstances where they don't exit ministry, but in most cases, there's a very high chance. So it does seem counterintuitive. Here's what I say: marriage and family relationships may be the most pragmatically or practically important, but the survey scores did not show this. It should be repeated here that the difference between many relationship types and factors may be negligible. In other words, all the relationships we've listed so far are important. All of them are important.
Right.
That one is higher than the other. Yeah, it's scored higher than the other. They're all critical in this list. All very important. So all these relationship types and factors associated in this list are significant for longevity. So youth pastor has a healthy marriage. Average score of this factor, 4.65. So this is above 90%. Yes, youth pastor takes adequate time to care for his spouse or family. This was below 90%, probably more like an 87% score or 85% score. Marriage has been helpful to the youth pastor. Marriage has been helpful to the youth pastor to attain longevity. High agreement on that one as well. And so the last relationship type that's significant for longevity, the youth pastor's relationship with the leadership team. His youth ministry leadership team, yeah. And we'll hit on this in the logistical category, which will be down the road here. But logistics deal with practical matters in youth ministry, and we'll talk about that. But one of the things is how a leader structures and leads
their team.
And the highest scoring logistical factor is that they lead through a team. So no surprise here that a youth pastor's relationship with a leadership team is significant for longevity. This is very practical. And I think it's less about relational value, like you have friends, you have connection, and it's more about like you have a team that you work through that does things that lightens the load so you can keep going.
That's real though. Yeah.
That is real.
Yeah.
And the youth pastor believes a significant portion of his or her role as a youth pastor is to equip, develop, and empower the youth leadership team to be effective in ministry. This was the key question that got this particular relationship onto the list. That's quite significant because if one of your major roles is to equip, develop, empower leaders, then you're giving away ministry responsibility.
Right.
If you think that's scary, it is, but it lightens your load so you can do more later.
Right. Yeah.
So that's,
and ultimately you can all do more.
Yeah. And so that's the highlights.
Woo!
That's the highlights. And
good
so
highlights.
I think to me the big points are we don't exist in a vacuum as youth pastors and leaders.
Right.
And when a youth pastor has a short tenure or a failed tenure in a church, it is often connected to these relationships. In Len Kagler's study of longevity in youth ministry, for example, his book, great book to read on longevity in youth ministry, called Youth Ministry Survival Guide.
Okay. He
studied why people leave ministry. We studied why people stay in youth ministry. He found that the top reason youth pastors leave a church or burn out is conflict with the lead pastor. The second highest reason, conflict with other staff members. So relational conflict is often a driver. And people, when a youth pastor fails or I don't say fail is not the right word, but when they have a short tenure, when they leave a church, it's very damaging. It's very hard. It's
hard on everybody.
It's hard on everybody. It's hard on the students. It's hard on the lead pastor. We've got lead pastors in this network today with trauma over broken relationships from youth pastors. It's hard on the students, the families. It's hard on the community. But and then it's because it's so damaging, it's easy to cast blame on the youth pastor.
Right.
But conflict is a two-way street. And so each of these relationships are key. And for your part, youth pastor leader, you want to do your best to tend them, to make them healthy. Obviously, the other has to reciprocate. But all of them are important for longevity.
Yeah. Wow.
So any closing thoughts?
I know just for me, I want to be a person that others want to have a good relationship with, and I want to try to be intentional with relationships.
Yeah.
And I think in all areas of life,
Yes.
it's so important.
And I want to do this scripture, Romans 12:18, is key for the relational factors of longevity. If it is, do not repay anyone evil for evil. This is Romans 12:17. Carefully consider what is right. Carefully consider what is right in the eyes of everybody. This is from the Berean Study Bible. That's challenging.
In the eyes of everybody?
Well, it says consider.
Yeah.
It doesn't say try to please everybody.
Or agree with it, yeah.
In fact, let me look at it in the NLT. NLT is our preferred. Do not version in the assemblies right now. Never pay back evil with more evil. Do things in such a way that everyone can see you are honorable. Do all you can to live at peace with everyone. And so I think that's the key here.
Yeah.
And it goes on, dear friends, never take revenge. Leave that to the righteous anger of God.
Yeah.
Don't let evil conquer you. Then further down in verse 21, but conquer evil by doing good. So as
and
much as
do all you can, as like I'm being proactive, but I'm also being proactive to not harbor bitterness or let things fester. And
right. Yeah. And so I do think that the scriptures back up the research, or really the research supports what the scripture's saying in the correct order. Do your best to live at peace with everyone. When a youth pastor has a short tenure, it's usually not just the youth pastor's fault. Sometimes, but not often. It's a two-way street. So we got some birthdays today. And we want to say we missed last week's Monday Motivation for Memorial Day. So we want to say last week's birthdays. Happy birthday to Matt Phillips.
Yeah.
Matt's one of the awesome volunteers at Freedom Valley. And he's been one of the key people to make the game successful. He helps Jay create all the game contraptions and things. Awesome guy. And
thanks,
he helps
Matt.
with tech too, right?
He may be starting to.
Maybe starting to help with our production stuff. Zeth Osborne in Altoona. Happy birthday last week, Zeth. Josiah Griever, awesome youth pastor in West Virginia who comes and brings his youth group to a lot of our events. Last week was his birthday. We're looking forward to seeing you week 1, Josiah. Corey Sanders in Community Church in the Poconos. We found out he's a twin.
A twin?
Corey, you're a twin.
Your twin looks just like you.
You've been holding out on us, Corey Sanders. You have a twin.
Wow.
And so super happy birthday.
But also just happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you, and your twin, but
you
also mostly to you. Today is Dan Bricker's birthday. Happy birthday, Dan Bricker, St. Thomas Assembly.
Yeah.
And your wedding is in a week and a half, friend. I'm looking forward to it.
Coming up.
Thursday, Hans Fate.
Happy birthday,
our rep in Delaware. Happy birthday Thursday to Hans.
He's going to be at camp as well for housing director.
He will be week 1, yes.
Yeah.
Josh Little, who is a former youth pastor but still helps out. He's in Littlestown.
Well, that's
Josh
convenient.
Littlestown.
Very convenient.
Was youth pastor in Allentown. Now he and his family are helping out at Bethel and Littlestown. Happy birthday. And Lindsay Piermoney Brace is this Sunday.
Yeah.
Her new nickname, Pure Money.
Pure Money.
Pure Money. Happy birthday. And so, Korinne, I'm going to ask you to pray for our youth pastors and leaders.
All right.
Hope you have a great, some of you, first week of summer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We love summer. Lord, thank you for summer. Thank you for all of the joy that we get to experience in new things with our students out of school. God, we just, we thank you for this teaching. We thank you for giving us opportunities to learn in new ways and new times and with new info. And God, I just pray that relationally, would you open the hearts and minds of everyone who's watching and listening, Lord, just to really consider and to take a personal inventory and say, God, how would you have me better these relationships? And God, we just pray for great success in their relationships and humbling ourselves and being intentional and just putting the things that matter most right at the top of our list. And we just thank you that you, Holy Spirit, guide and you give discernment, and you won't leave us to figure all of that on our own. But you're with us every step of the way. So we thank you. We trust you. We love you so much. God, would you just bless everyone who's listening today? In your name, amen.
Amen. Hey, thanks everybody. Happy Monday. Happy week.
Happy Monday. See ya.
See ya.